Naiji Mojo, as far as our data so far shows us, seems to manifest at a relatively equal rate as the other mojos. However, as mentioned in another section on the prevalence of Naiji, if you look in popular culture media icons, there's actually a preponderance of Naiji, which make you think they're quite common, but no, they're still about average ratios with the other mojos. On the other hand, there are many models that actually attempt to categorize people in ways that have some correlation, but not anywhere near the accuracy or depth of pod layer with mojos. And when they do this, they often posit that the Naiji configuration or correlation to it would be the rarest mojo in the land, at least in the United States anyway. And this isn't true. So you have to ask why. Why is that mojo misreading more than any other? There are two major reasons. One we've gotten into a lot in the book in the section, which is the complexity. The Naiji way of operating is very complex and very extreme, and that's kind of one thing together, the extremeness and the complexity, so that it can be difficult for the Naiji to know which one of the roles it's played is it. The other reason, which kind of greatly increases that, is it's very difficult being a Naiji. Because you have to wonder, since Naiji have quite a few spiffy abilities, why it is so often rejected as a mojo. People who take self-evaluations don't want to see themselves as being a Naiji. Why is this? I've had to say the number one reason is that it's difficult. It is a bit of a difficult design to learn how to fly that ship. So it has really cool abilities, but if you don't know how to fly it, it'll be very difficult to get it to do anything, and if you do get it to do something, there's a good chance it's going to crash, and if it does crash, wow, it is spectacular when Naiji crash. So, many Naiji are like, I was sort of something when I was younger, but I'm better now. I'm past that affliction. That affliction was their actual true Naiji nature, but that's why. So what are these afflictions? Well, they're not really afflictions, but they can be interpreted as such. One is, as mentioned, the extremeness in the roles they play. That extremeness can go into frenzy. So most kids don't get training that frenzy is okay and you have to do a certain way and what you would do with it. So it basically sort of like one day I turned to a werewolf, and like either that's a scary part of my nature. A lot of Naiji are actually scared of how intense and extreme they know they're capable of taking things. So they kind of walk around the whole time feeling like, okay, I don't like that about me, and so they actually shut it down. And then whatever they use to shut it down, they often interpret it as them now. Because when they shut that down, it wasn't like they shut it down and let out sometimes. Frenzy is scary enough that you'll shut it down maybe after seeing it only one time, only partial of what it was. You saw a little tickle of what it was one time, and then slammed the door on that, shut it, locked it, threw away the key, and have not opened that vent since then. So a lot of Naiji really are deeply separated from their true selves. Going native, Naiji have a tendency to perfect things that will actually get them seen as a person of respect in whatever community they are in. So if those particular rituals have a certain vibe to them that would make you think that that's a certain mojo just because the ritual. The Naiji will often maybe read as being that, because if they are like, okay, that's how you do such a ritual, they'll get into character and they'll basically method act it like the whole time they're in that village. So like the entire time they're playing teacher in that village, they maybe walk a certain way, talk a certain way in order to get across that character. If that character could be perceived by someone else as being adaptive or logic-based or anything really that's not like the Naiji, it doesn't matter. If the Naiji feels that that's the ritual that would look good, it will attempt to shapeshift in order to be that. Double directives. most Naiji do have sort of a preoccupation with being weak, only because the environment kind of messes with us so much and we don't have a very friendly attitude towards it. So if you're in a room that you consider to be unfriendly, you tend to kind of wonder who can beat who. It's kind of on your mind a lot. So Naiji do have sort of like, how am I going to handle business, whatever that means to them, should it come up, a debate, something physical, money situation, whatever, how am I going to deal with it? So they sometimes will hook up, say, in romantic relationships with another directive. It's seen a lot when they actually just do wolf packs. But you'll see in wolf packs and even sometimes in the romantic other, when there are more than one Naiji, they'll start to make like a little mini universe. And in this mini universe, one of the Naiji is the healer, one's the fixer, one's the hunter, one's the wizard, one's the fighter, one is the gatherer, one is the funny person. And because they really only operate in this little microcosm, and the rest of the world is pretty much ignored, except when you have to do like metaphysical and physical heists and capers to get what you need on your missions. Other than that, you only treat this as the world, and so a very funny skewed system comes in there to where Naiji may feel like they're a Jaini, but because they do occupy a lot of those roles within that microcosm of Naiji hunters. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like Special Force or something. It's like, you are a medic, but you're a medic who's really trained at killing people and hiding in the jungle. You know what I mean? And you are an electronics expert who's really good at running around the jungle and hunting. So basically everyone in like a crew like that would be like a medic or a linguist or an electrician or whatever, but they're all like hunters. Yeah. And those are just sort of like subclasses. So that can throw Naiji off as well. What else? Laziness, bad memory, and vezzing up is Naiji often really don't like actually doing poorly in the eyes of the environment, because it'll turn the environment's what seems like already impinging gaze more attentively on the Naiji. Like, it'll get worse for the Naiji if you have like a mess up. So Naiji kind of get good at figuring out ways to demonstrate a lot of mastery or coolness or whatever to get the environment to see them in a certain way, so that something silly doesn't trip them up later and they get seen in a certain light. They want to like really brand themselves. So again, this intense attempt at branding is like the attempt to do a ritual well. Is if they think that being funny would be the way to go, they may actually be way more gregarious in this environment in order to do that. If a Naiji, for example, is in this environment for a long period of time, perhaps these are its permanent circle of friends, it may hold the role of funny man the entire time. Outgoing, easygoing funny man. Because that actually seems like something that brings along productive harmony. And Naiji can go into roles and stay in them indefinitely. That's important to note. A Naiji actually may be in a role for like 4 or 5 years. Most people don't think of a role as being 4 or 5 years. They think of that as being the last 4 to 5 years of my life. But for Naiji, you have to understand, we're basically always like an expanding pantheon of characters we can play and unlock. Disassociation, yes, that also makes lots of misreads. As mentioned, the conceptual use of Ji. The conceptual use of Ji has a whole host of very cool but unusual ways it can manifest, and their unusualness can make you misread things. So for example, if you're having like a Ji connection with, I don't know, the tree, and you just want to hug the tree all day, that's actually directive. That's Ji directiveness telling you, hug that tree. But it can kind of seem like all you want to do is hug trees and nothing else. That could be construed as being adaptive. A lot of Naiji who actually, are like told by their Ji in the simulator, go be friends with that tree and just hang out the tree and like commune with it. That's an extremely directive energy, but they'll often read to others and themselves as an adaptive, as a Jaini. What else? Mathematics, for example, if they actually are communing with planets as their buddies, they're very likely to think that they're a Zez mojo. HSP causes, it's a lot like walking on fire. if you're actually walking on fire, you're going to do what I think we all know when you walk on like hot pavement and shit, the fire dance. We basically hop around like a freak, flailing and flagellating, and you're not really looking like you. I mean, technically that is you. I mean, that is your mojo, but your mojo is freaking the fuck out. So in that state, you'll pretty much do anything, like jump in cream pie with both feet because it'll cool them off, and walk around with cream pie feet. That makes you look like probably not a mojo you would associate being an IG. You know what I mean? A person walking around buck naked with their feet in cream pies. Okay. However, if you're under stress, HSP, in fact, many a great comedy sitcom is based on an IG Polar V, which is the environment just wigs them the fuck out, and they do these ridiculous things and end up buck naked halfway out the window of a local police precinct. You know what I mean? And you're like, and it's funny to the audience because the audience knows this character and is aware that they are so HSP that they will do weird shit because, for example, they can't, I don't know, pee in front of somebody else or something ridiculous like that, and they go these elaborate lengths to get around it. So these elaborate lengths can be interpreted as a character. Because an IG, if I actually do something as an IG and like it's really, really painfully awkward, I may actually do something like walk a certain way home that I don't normally walk in order to make it not awkward, because like I don't like it to be awkward. But then that could somehow make someone ask, why did I walk on the other side of the road from them, and I didn't realize they knew I did that, so now I have to come up with some reason why I did that. And then they actually follow up the next week because they actually like me and are asking about that reason I crossed the road, which didn't ever really happen. There was no reason except it felt awkward, and so I have to keep going that or tell them that, you know what, and as an IG you're often caught with that. Okay, if I tell them this, I'll have to like tell them all the weirdness involved. Both Najez can identify with this of like, I think it might be better to just really go the long way than to tell them how crazy I am. And so Naiji, when they go out of the way to hide or mask their craziness, those routes they take can look like who they are, especially if they do them very dedicatedly and for a long period of time. Anything else? Well, that's plenty for now. There are more reasons, but that's enough to give you an idea why Naiji misread as not being what they are so much by other people and themselves.